I am your host Anuj Prabhu, and today with me I have a very special friend. You can say a boss also. I report to him at Sports Kida, Mr. Prasen Mudgal. Hi Prasen, how are you?
Hi Anuj, I'm good. Thanks for having me on the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. Eagerly waiting for the World Test Championship final. It has been something that has kind of excited a lot of people, and that is why I decided to, kind of preview it with you as to what can we look forward to in this big game that is coming up. So, talking about the journey of the two teams, for New Zealand it has been all about home domination. They haven't been good in Australia, but their performances in New Zealand have been so, threatening, you could say, that they are no more the underdogs. So what would you say about their team?
Yeah, they're obviously a team packed with superstars. There's no doubt about it. The performance that they had in New Zealand when we went and visited them, I think it really underlined what sort of a dominance they've had at home. But now, considering they'll be playing in England, I think it's going to be a different chapter altogether. Although the conditions suit them a fair bit. But having said that, I think both teams are pretty much balanced in some sense. A lot of experts are saying that with the ball moving around, New Zealand might have the edge, which is certainly true. I think in terms of outswing or just generally swinging the ball, New Zealand certainly have fairly better bowlers than we do. But having said that, New Zealand aren't exactly comfortable on the batting front. I feel, despite Devon Conway's double century,
Right.
that middle order was very shaky, especially against the seamers. And I think that's going to raise an interesting question for the Indians about how they're going to come up with their bowling attack because. None of the spinners so far have got wickets. Joe Root, Mitchell Santner, both of them haven't got wickets. Kane
Right.
Williamson also didn't get a wicket. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But it's a very, very exciting clash, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, talking about India, if you want to sum up their campaign, it could be said that it was like a back to the wall stuff. They had to go through pretty difficult situations. Despite being at top of the table before the points rules changed. So still taking it on their chin, they did it. They did whatever was required. They miraculously beat Australia in Australia. After losing the first test at home, they beat England also. But what has been said a lot, and there has been a controversial post too that was put on Instagram. I guess there was some account of New Zealand cricket that put that, sorry India, you cannot make a dust bowl at Lords, and that was liked by Trent Bolt, Saudi and co. So that was something that has sparked a debate, that India can only play on dust bowls. And some kind of there is an ironical discussion that now, since India is back to their full strength, they might struggle. So like people are saying that maybe a second string team could have done better. So what are your views on that?
No, absolutely. I think that's all. That's all. Just adding rumor to the windmills. I think there's nothing really concrete about what's happened there at all. Obviously, for all PR purposes, they would have gone and liked it. God only knows what's happened behind the scenes over there. But look, the Indian team right now is probably one of the strongest teams in the whole world, and that's why we've even made the final. It's no small task to actually win so many matches with all the percentage points coming to play. And the way we played against Australia, I think that just highlighted India's dominance over the years. No one even had anything to say about Virat Kohli after that series ended. He wasn't even there with the Indian team. It was all about playing with the second string, even third string set, if you can call it that way. Pretty much almost every squad member played in that tour. So that just speaks volumes about India's depth in terms of players that we have. And we're going to be playing a full strength squad in the World Test Championship. So I see no reason why, we can't really beat them. Probably the only issue that I see is that our batsmen are slightly susceptible to the moving ball. But apart from that, I think we have all the bases covered. And in some sense, I think the whole point of India's playing 11 pretty much, set in stone, I think is an indication of how strong the team is. So I think very positive signs. All that's happened in the past is in the past, and we shouldn't really dwell on it and look at what's to come. And I have a feeling India have a very, very good chance of winning that WTC final.
Yeah. So now analyzing, let's get into analyzing both the teams, right? First, let's talk about Team India. Let's talk about their strengths. Uh, One of the strengths for them has been the rise of Rishabh Pant, you could say. The way he has literally grown into someone who can be touted as a pure batsman as well as a good wicket keeper. Although he's still not at the level of Saha, but he has provided that incredible balance that allows the team, to go in with a couple of spinning options in both Jadeja and Ashwin, who can bat as well. So the depth thing is what I think is a very big plus for India. And what it also brings is the likes of Shane Warne and stuff. They went there and they went to play for Hampshire, so that ground there supports the spinners. They can get a bit of help on day 4, day 5. If you see Ashwin Jadeja bowling in tandem, it could feel like a home season again. So what do you have to say about the strengths, or are there any other strengths that you see in the Indian team?
No, I think Rishabh Pant is the definition of what everyone keeps saying, X factor, X factor. I think X factor is like severely overused in the context of cricket and more so Indian cricket. Everyone keeps talking about how each and every player is an X factor. People say Pujara, Rahane is an X factor, Jadeja is an X factor. But I think the real X factor is Rishabh Pant, because he's someone who can really change the match altogether. We saw how he performed in Australia, helped India come out of that perilous situation to actually pick up a win. And I think that's a trademark of how Rishabh Pant, goes about his game. I think there's also a lot of maturity that's come about in his batting. Earlier he used to just throw his wicket away, but here we're seeing that, or rather in Australia, we saw how he, decided to sort of settle in and then go for the big shots, and the audacious shots that he hits now and then. Even some of the shots that he plays is simply remarkable. So I think he's a real X factor player. And that what reverse scoop, God only knows what you can call that shot, but yeah, it's simply remarkable what he does, and I think he's going to be the biggest player for us in that middle order. But having said that, I think apart from that, it's going to be interesting to see how Jasprit Bumrah really plays in those conditions, because I have a feeling Mohammad Shami might be slightly more effective than Bumrah, considering that Shami bowls a little bit fuller when compared to what Bumrah does. And obviously, the way Tim Southee bowls also, you can see it's very similar to what Shami does, bowling full, getting the ball to swing a fair bit. So I think it's going to be a battle of who trumps between Southee and Shami. I think that's going to be a very, very interesting battle for me.
So, from your points, I understood that, Shami and Bumrah are the two that pacers that are going to start, right? From the get-go. Now, as far as swinging the ball is concerned, we saw what Southee did to England, in the first innings. So it is so important to have a genuine swing bowler who might not be express pace. That's okay. You can still trouble the batsman in England. So with Bhuvaneshwar Kumar not there, there were quite a few exclamation marks that, who is a genuine swing bowler. But then names like Shardul Thakur, Mohammad Siraj, and of course Umesh Yadav. So you have 3 excellent swing backups, you could say, to Ishant Sharma. But Ishant Sharma, again, he's coming out of an injury. He's rusty. He got injured again in the IPL. So, would you really risk him for a one-off final? Or, would you rather play someone like a Shardul Thakur who might, give that conventional swing and also, give added depth to the batting? This is what I feel, that, one among Siraj or Shardul should play as a third seamer instead of Ishant Sharma.
Yeah, I think going by what Shastri and Kohli sort of said in that press conference, people leaked that clip and everything, and they were suggesting that Siraj might play, and it's fair. I think Siraj has really proven his credentials really well. He led the pace attack in the absence of all these big guns. But having said that, I'm not sure how they're going to find a way to keep Ishant out, because irrespective of the injuries that he's had, he's still one of India's most experienced bowlers. He's played so much of Test cricket. He knows what it takes to excel at that level. So I think they'll want to bank on that experience. And I think what they're seeming to suggest is, because of the way the pitch has played out in England, they might be tempted to play 4 pacers. But will it be at the expense of Ashwin or Jadeja? Something that they might want to look at, because like we spoke about, obviously the spinners haven't got much purchase yet. And with all the clouds hovering up in the sky and a lot of swing on offer, they might be tempted to play that extra pacer. But I don't think Ishant Sharma is going to sit out. If he sits out, it will be a surprise, but it'll probably be, like you said, to slot in probably an extra swing bowler. But yeah, I don't see them benching Ishant. So I think they're going to start with Ishant, Bumrah and Shami for that final.
So yeah, as you said about the 4 pacer theory, right? So it means that one among either Jadeja or Ashwin might have to miss out. So how tough is that decision. Jadeja being Jadeja, what he did in the Boxing Day test, he just proves time and again how good a cricketer he is. Even that run out of Steve Smith, if they could have got that 30-40 runs extra, you never know, we could have even lost that Sydney test, right? So it is some kind of, you could say, a bit, it is a lot to think about. It is a lot of headache for the team management, right? And with, if the current in England batting order is what comes up, against uh, India later, right, in the 5 tests, or be it New Zealand, if Devon Conway plays, so you will have 4 left-handers out of 6 in the top 6 or top 7. So that could again tempt people to play Ashwin, right? But Jadeja has shown that he can exploit the rough outside the off stump to left-handers and get them in trouble. So if I put you on the spot right now and ask, whom among Ashwin or Jadeja should play?
I think they should go with both, in my opinion, because Southampton has, sort of seemed to, play host to a little bit of spin here and there in the recent past. And I don't think they should look beyond Ashwin and Jadeja. They also have Axar, they have Washington, but I feel either of Ashwin or Jadeja will play, or both. I feel both will play because among, Ishant, Bumrah and Shami, we have 3 really, really good pacers. And if Ravi Shastri and Virat Kohli, if something is to go by that what they said, if they're looking to play someone like Siraj, then I don't think they'll want to weaken the batting because let's face it, our bowlers aren't exactly good batsmen. Mohammad Shami can talk the ball a fair bit. Ishant Sharma can stonewall, the bowling, but it's not for too long. They can't score too many runs, so that's going to be an issue. And I think we'll want to have batting until about 7 or 8 at least, and that's what Ashwin and Jadeja can give us. Considering how good New Zealand's bowling attack is, and they out bowled us in some sense in New Zealand. I think they'll want some assurance with the bat low down the order as well, and that's why they'll probably want to play both Ashwin and Jadeja. And Jadeja obviously has proven his credentials with the bat, ball, and on the field as well. So, and like you said, they have so many left-handers in the top 6, so they'll not want to bench Ashwin. So solely for that reason, I have a feeling they're going to start with both the spinners and 3 pacers. And hopefully it pays off, and we aren't a bowler short.
Right. So now coming towards the weaknesses of the Indian team, right? People are talking about Rohit Sharma, and how some of them talk about the fact that he's a flat track bully, and all those talks were silenced when he played a couple of really good innings down under, in testing conditions at the Gabba as well as at the Sydney cricket grounds, but they still were half centuries, right? He threw his wicket away, and especially with uh, an opening partner, right? He doesn't have a great support at the other end, be it Mayank Agarwal or Shubman Gill, the kind of form they are in. Shubman Gill was averaging below 20 against England. So, how important would Rohit Sharma's role be in this stage? And is it a really big threat given that, be it Anderson Broad or be it Bolt, Saudi, whoever it is, in England, in the long tour to England that we have right now, how important is this opening combination going to be?
Yeah, it's going to be supremely important because we need one batsman to carry on like the way Devon Conway did in this ongoing test. I think it's going to be very important to see how they really pull out the big guns, especially Rohit Sharma. Because if I'm not wrong, I think he has the best average against New Zealand in away conditions.
Right.
But this came way back when he was a middle order batsman, and not since he's open. But I think he's going to have a very important role to play. Obviously, he's not the most comfortable against swing bowling, and right opposite him, he'll have someone he knows from close quarters from the Mumbai Indians in Trent Bolt. So it's going to be a very important role that he's going to play. Obviously, Mayank Agarwal and Shubman Gill haven't had as much success as they probably would have liked. But Shubman Gill played a fantastic knock in Australia. Mayank Agarwal has also proved his worth as well. So it's going to be interesting to see who among the two they pick for the opening slot along with Rohit, which makes his role very important because there aren't too many accumulators as much as Rohit and Rishabh Pant can do in the side. So Rohit's role is going to be very, very important without a doubt, and he'll need to score heavy to sort of keep that New Zealand bowling attack at bay.
So if you are the selector, right? If you have to pick an 11. So will you back Shubman Gill or will you bring Mayank Agarwal in? Because even he is the 3rd fastest Indian to get to 1,000 test runs.
Yeah, it's a question for the ages, isn't it? I mean, it's obviously going to be a very tough challenge to pick between the two. But I always look to go for experience over youth. And as much as Shubman Gill has done a lot, rather he put up quite a few good knocks, I still feel Mayank Agarwal should be back. He probably might have failed a couple of times, but he still has experience on the domestic circuit. In the limited opportunities he got first time around when he made his international debut, I think he's done pretty well from then on, and I think they should back him. There's enough time to test Shubman Gill in the years to come, even in the England series as well. So I think they should give Mayank Agarwal a go and partner him at the top with Rohit.
Right. So the number 3 and number 4 are pretty sorted, Pujara and Kohli. Another question of debate that comes up is Ajinkya Rahane at number 5. With Hanuma Vihari back in the squad, with Rishabh Pant at 6, there is no doubt about that. So would you see a battle for number 5 position between Vihari and Rahane? Because Vihari is playing county cricket right now, right? So he is already, kind of assimilated to the conditions. And at the same time, Rahane, despite that brilliant 100 at Melbourne, hasn't been in the greatest of forms. Although his stats say otherwise, right? Although his stats say that he has good numbers in the World Test Championship. So it is another headache, right? And there are some people even talking about probably a Washington Sundar at number 5. We could give you another bowling option if you want, if the pitch really starts turning. So it is a very difficult situation. And how do you think India should handle it?
No, I really don't think they're going to look beyond Rahane because he's obviously the vice captain of the side. He led the Indian team in Kohli's absence, and we picked up that historic win. So I don't think we should look beyond Rahane at all. He's had a couple of failures, but he's a champion player. That Melbourne 100 that he scored is very, very important. So I think, however sad it is for Hanuma Vihari to sit out despite that mega knock that he played, that's the stage that Indian cricket is in right now. How much ever you make the most of your opportunities, you're always probably going to be on the sidelines once the big guns come in. And I think it's going to be the same case with Akshar Patel as well. After his showing against England, he's still going to make way for Ravindra Jadeja in this World Test Championship final. So I have a feeling they're definitely going to stick with Rahane, considering his leadership and his credentials with the bat. He might have failed in the past, but I don't think that's something to harp on. And you can back Rahane to come good and obviously build a good partnership either with the top 4 or with the likes of Pant, Ashwin, or Jadeja.
So if I tell you to pick one player who could be the man of the match of the World Test Championship final from India, so who do you think it will be?
Well, it's been a long time coming since Kohli scored a century, and there's no bigger occasion than the World Test Championship final, first of its kind. Kohli obviously has kept India at the top for these many years. It would be the icing on the cake if he can sort of lead India to a World Test Championship final win, and with the bat, not only on the field. So I really hope Virat Kohli steps up to the occasion. I think he's really pumped to sort of go out there and put up a good challenge. And against the swinging ball is going to be slightly tough. I think Saudi and co might give him a tough time out there, but he's a champion player. He's sort of come out of the troubles that he's had, and I hope he puts up a good performance and raises the bat for that 100 and hopefully carries on more than that. So I feel Kohli is going to have a good time and put up a good performance.
Right. So that was about India. Let's come to the potential favorites, we could say, according to a lot of people, about New Zealand. So this has been a team that has always been punching above their weight, but I feel gone are those days, right? With the addition of Kyle Jamieson and then a few promising solid batsmen in the middle orders like Henry Nicholson, and then again the experience of Williamson and Taylor, and then Devon Conway is just the icing on the cake, right? They were so struggling to find the right opening partner for Tom Latham. They tried Jeet Rawal, they tried Tom Blundell, they tried so many different options, but now it just looks like it is the you could say it was the missing piece of the jigsaw for New Zealand. So where do you think their strength lies here?
There's no doubt that their strength certainly lies in their bowling. As much as they have quality batsmen, they have Williamson, Nichols, Tom Latham, and now Devon Conway. I think that bowling is still their biggest strength. With the variations that they have two left-arm seamers. Of course, Bolt is not playing, but Neil Wagner, Tim Southey, Kyle Jamieson, they have DeGrando who can bowl. They've got a good spinner in Mitchell Santner. So I think that bowling attack is something that really stands out for me. And it's definitely going to challenge the Indian batsmen in these testing and swinging conditions. So we saw how the New Zealand middle order really crumbled against New Zealand against the Pacers. So that's an area that they'll want to sort of improve on and look to sort of construct that or galvanize that unit, because they aren't really firing together. So, but I think their bowling really stands out, and with Trent Bolt coming back in, I think it's going to be a formidable unit. So their bowling is an X factor in my opinion.
Yeah, so as you spoke about the weakness, one of the biggest weakness that we are seeing right at the moment, also in the ongoing match against England, the way Kane Williamson is struggling to score, right, and his record isn't being that great, and even on Twitter there is an uproar that there is a polite request from Indian fans to just keep this going, one more game. So so everyone knows what kind of a player he is, and his ability to bat, for even a couple of days, like on the bounce. So how important is Williamson's wicket? And he always tends to come back into form against India, be it any format. So that is really the biggest question, right? So if there is one matchup that you're looking forward to, who could get Williamson?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be one among, I think, Shami or Bumrah, because they're probably going to be the biggest impact players with the ball. And Bumrah, he tends to sort of rush the batsman for pace, and the bounce and carry that he generates. I think it's going to be very important. Obviously, Williamson sort of chopped on a ball from Anderson onto his stumps. So I think it's going to be one among Shami and Bumrah. And like I said earlier, Shami's tendency to bowl the ball a little full might tempt the batsman a lot from the New Zealand point of view. So he's going to be an important player. But I think in terms of the battle with Williamson, I've got a feeling that Mohammad Shami might get him out, simply because he's probably he can swing the ball both ways, and he's a class bowler. And at that pace, with the conditions favoring him, I think he's going to have a good time.
Right, and the other big threat that has emerged right now, Devon Conway, the way he has just taken giant strides into international cricket is just unbelievable, right? So for an outsider to come into the New Zealand team to cement his place, and it is such a, although he got lucky with New Zealand not having strong openers, but to make the most of it for a middle order batsman to be asked to open, it is never easy, especially in red ball cricket, right, where you could be exposed, your technique could be exposed, and you could be gone, right? A couple of failures and you're gone. But the way he just didn't grab the opportunity, he absolutely thumped the England bowlers, right? They couldn't get him out, right? He was run out in the end. So India have any plan for Conway, right, with the likes of Ashwin? You have again a left-hander bowling to a left-hander, Ashwin, so that might be a threat. Then Ishant Sharma's record against left-handers has been sensational as well. So where do you see, how do we plot a plan against Conway now that you have seen him play well?
Yeah, I think in terms of Conway, he's someone who's an accumulator of sorts. You can probably compare him to the likes of Rishabh Pant or Rohit Sharma. He likes to score runs. He's not someone who's constantly going to be blocking the ball or stonewalling the deliveries that come his way. So I think the best form of attack against Conway is to sort of target the stumps. Because considering the way he plays, he's someone who look to flick the ball often, or try to probably loft it up in the air, or drive it on the up. So bowling, rather arrowing it in towards the stumps, probably swinging the ball into him is something that we can try and do. And like obviously Conway, the point is that now there's not much pressure on him. Obviously, a debut at Lords is something that's a very momentous thing. But I feel the whole hula hula again of the World Test Championship final, I think might be something that could play on his mind. And if that's the case, then the Indian bowling attack is very versatile, and we have quite a few options. So I feel targeting the stumps and swinging the ball into him is an option that can be considered and which could be successful.
Right. So we the last time we played New Zealand in England, we didn't have the greatest of memories, right? It still keeps on haunting me sometimes. So do you think we are still underestimating them. The fact that we then got beaten 2-0 again in the similar conditions. So, where does, again, we are not prepared this time, right? We are just going out of a 3-day hard quarantine. Then we'll have some practice and then straight into the match, right? We don't have match practice compared to New Zealand. So, how big is this a problem for India? And this could cost India dearly. It has cost them in white ball, right? It has cost them in the World Cup semi-final. They were not prepared for that wet day in Old Trafford. Again, it cost them in down under in New Zealand. So how, and as you said, right, they also have De Grandom. So when the four pacers, if they go with an all pace attack, which I think they will go in with, if they go in with four pacers, then to kind of give them a breather, you will have Colin De Grandom who also swings the ball. So how do India tackle with the although they have all the quality, how do they tackle with this relentless bowling attack?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty tough. There's absolutely no doubt about it because New Zealand obviously have that quality. But I think the 2019 World Cup was, limited overs, and I don't think people should really draw parallels to that. And in terms of taking New Zealand lightly, I don't think that's been the case, at least for the last year or so, ever since we lost in New Zealand. So I don't think anyone's ever taking them lightly because they're obviously a class side. They've got players who've been proven performers over the years. So I don't think it's fair to take them lightly. In fact, I think a lot of people have given them the edge. That's a favorite phrase that a lot of people have used. New Zealand have the edge. They have the momentum. They have all sorts of things. And yeah, match practice is certainly going to benefit New Zealand. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But having said that, I think the Indian team is quality enough to deal with the conditions. They're probably going to have like a couple of intra-squad matches, is what we're hearing. But yeah, I mean, in terms of match practice, that's something that's going to be lacking. But these situations, these conditions, the pandemic hasn't really helped in terms of logistics. At least we've Sports Cadets have reported that they weren't able to deal with the logistics earlier as well, and that's why they sort of had to look for this sort of a time slot. So as hard as it is that we're not going to have match practice, we still have quality players. I feel the net sessions and the intra-squad matches will certainly help. And it's definitely going to be a very, very interesting clash.
Right. So, what is the one big player battle that you're going to look forward to? For me, it is Virat Kohli versus Kyle Jamieson. He struggled badly in New Zealand against Jamieson. And the fact that they have played with each other in the nets at RCB, I don't know whether that will be of a lot of help because it is with the white ball. There was even a cheeky incident where Kohli told him, right, have you brought a Duke's ball? You can kind of bowl it to me here. So that is one player battle that I would look forward to because I feel Kohli is still very, he is very good enough to handle the likes of Saudi and Bolt, but and Wagner for that matter, because he's a good back foot player. Even if Wagner kind of peppers him up with short balls, he has that back foot play. But with Jamieson, the kind of height that the ball comes from, you can make an error of judgment in length, right? You could play for a fuller ball, but the ball is short, or vice versa, and that is what has caused problems, right? And Virat Kohli, although he has worked on his technique a lot, he has still shown some kind of susceptibility to the ball outside of stump, right? Outside of stump, his urge to just drive through the line. So how do you see this battle, and do you have any other player battle in mind?
In terms of Kohli, I think Jamieson isn't someone who's really going to swing the ball much. Not at least not as much as either Bolt or Southee. And I think the whole aspect of swing is something that's caught Kohli off guard quite a few occasions. Ever since 2014, and then even recently as well. So I think the fact that Southee, first of all, I think Southee is a very, very underrated bowler. We don't hero him as much as we hero others simply because he probably isn't projected as much as the others are. Probably if he was playing for England or something, then we might have heard his name more often than not. But I think the whole thing with Southee is he's also played with Kohli at RCB, so he knows what Kohli's issues are with the moving ball. It's been well documented. So I think more than Jamieson hitting the hard lens and trying to get a nick, I feel Tim Southee's outswingers and the fact that he really has a good grasp over line and length is something that might trouble Kohli and even the other batsmen for that matter of fact in the Indian side. So I think Saudi is going to have a bigger impact than anyone else in that side. And in terms of other player battles, I think Ashwin versus Tom Latham will be something that's going to be interesting to watch. Obviously, Tom Latham has scored a whole lot of runs, and he also opens the batting. I'm interested to see how early Ashwin will be brought into the attack, considering that we have, rather, we will go in with three pacers for sure. But yeah, if Tom Latham manages to survive, I think obviously Ashwin will have a big role to play, taking the ball away from him and nullifying all the shots that he plays. So yeah, I think these two and Shami versus Williamson is probably round off my top three battles.
Right. So prediction time, right? Do you still back India to win it, or are you seeing New Zealand taking it home?
Well, first of all, I hope it doesn't rain because that's what's happened in the England New Zealand test, and we had a whole day rained off. But yeah, I mean, look, it's fair enough to assume that New Zealand have an advantage simply because they have match practice. They have like probably the best swing bowlers around. But having said that, this is a full strength Indian squad, and they'll be raring to go. It's obviously a massive moment as well. Kohli is that captain who instills that winning mentality in the side whenever they step onto the field. So I'm very optimistic about the Indian team pushing for a win, and I hope it happens because New Zealand are certainly no pushovers of any kind. They're a very strong side, but I feel India are they have all the boxes ticked ahead of that WTC final.
Right. You spoke about rain. Personally, I don't feel it will make much of a difference. I do feel the game will end in 3 or 4 days. I do feel it will be a low scoring encounter. Whether India wins it or New Zealand, it might be a face off between the bowling attacks is what I feel, because even if the team that bats first and if they get 300, I don't see the other team coming and scoring 400 or 500, because neither of the bowling attacks are that bad. So I would really think that way, that right, if Kohli bats first and India if they scramble to 300 or 350, then they're in the driver's seat to win the game, because the second innings pressure is always there, plus the pressure of the World Test Championship final will also be there. So yeah, even I'm looking forward to the game, but yeah, I do feel it's a low scoring thriller.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we get a 36 all out, but just that we're not at the receiving end of that. So let's hope that.
Thank you so much, Prasen, for giving your time, and yeah, I'll report to you soon after this ends.
Cheers, man. No worries.
Bye.
Good
Thank
to be
you.
here. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thank you.